Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Unveiling Islam. I'm David Wood here with Brother Rachid. Brother Rachid, we've talked about what the Quran says about Christians.
Yes.
But in addition to polytheists and a couple of other groups, one of the other biggest groups that's named over and over again in the Quran is Jews. And we see down to our time quite a bit of hostility towards Jews. What do we find in the Quran?
Well, let me start with this. The most hated race minority that I studied in Islamic history are Jews. If you wanted to be really mad at somebody in Morocco, just name him a Jew. That's how I grew up. When you read the Quran, we start with the Fatiha, the opening in our prayers. We have to do it in every prayer. Your prayer is not accepted unless you do the opening chapter, which is chapter number 1 in the Quran. All scholars that I read for them, they say the opening chapter is referring to Jews and Christians. The Christians went astray, the Jews are the cursed ones. So we repeat it, imagine 17 times a day. I'm reminding myself that the most cursed ones are Jews, the ones who went astray are Christians.
So this is recited over and over again in prayers.
Over and over. This is brainwashing.
And this is one of the most disturbing things about this. So you're pointing out, and it's, if you hear what's being said, and even if you hear it being translated, like if you're a Christian or a Jew and you hear this, you don't know what they're referring to when it says those who went astray and those who are cursed.
Yes.
They understand these are talking about Jews and Christians.
Yes.
One of the most disturbing things I find about that is there are Christians who invite Muslims
to recite these
their
things
churches for interfaith activities, and then Muslims show them how to recite this prayer, and you'll have Christians reciting prayers not knowing that they're calling themselves the ones who are led astray and that they're actually cursing Jews.
Ignorance kills, David. They are just ignorant. I wouldn't do that because I grew up knowing what it means. And my dad, when he explained it to me, he said, we're talking about Jews and Christians. If anybody want to change the meaning nowadays because it's exposed, that's their problem. But through history, that was the meaning. And take it now into a global scale. We hated the West and we hated Israel. Why? Because the West represents Christianity and Israel represents Jews. So the traditional two main enemies of Muhammad were Christians and Jews. Just look now. China tortures Muslims. Do you see any embassy being invaded or burned? Because Muhammad never talked about Hindus or Buddhists or anything. So they are not a priority.
And so, just to be clear, I mean, they are taking Muslims, putting them in camps,
yes,
sometimes torturing them, and you rarely hear even a peep.
Imagine if America is doing that. Mm-hmm. Imagine if Israel is doing that. So it's the religion messed up. Our societies made them hate the West and hate Israel just because of religious things. It's not because of what they are doing. Those are two different things. So let's talk about, for example, the Jews. The Jews in 582, Surah Al-Ma'idah, you will surely find the most intense of the people in animosity toward the believers, the Jews, and those who associate others with Allah. The Jews are the biggest enemies, the Quran claiming. And since Muhammad, Muslims, they do not say it has a context, it belongs then, and it has nothing to do with people nowadays. No. It's true back in the days, it's true today, and it's going to be true tomorrow.
Yeah, because, I mean, Muhammad also said that the end will not come until you fight the Jews to such an extent that you're killing them so much that they're running and they're hiding behind rocks and trees, and then the rocks and trees are going to call out and say, hey, there's a Jew behind me, come get him.
Yes. And also, I mean, don't get me wrong, in other verses you find Muhammad talking about them in the Quran as the children of Israel. That's when he was happy with them. Mm-hmm. So when he was happy, he called them the children of Israel. And he said, I preferred you over the worlds. But when he was mad at them, he didn't call them children of Israel anymore, Jews. Until today, the word Jew is an insult. It's not really something referring to a race. It's an insult. Calling somebody a Jew is an insult in the Muslim world. Which means that whatever Muhammad did, it stayed in our society and continues until today.
Mm-hmm. And let me just, so you just read Surah 5, verse 82.
Yes.
And, you pointed out that this is what the Quran is saying about Jews, and Muslims will come up with some sort of defense of this, but I would encourage Muslims to just think if someone were saying this about them, right? In other words, so the Quran says, strongest among men in enmity to the believers wilt thou find the Jews and the pagans.
Yeah.
Just imagine some American leader, some president of the United States coming out and saying, our biggest enemies are Muslims and pagans.
Oh my goodness.
They would not accept any sort of explanation. They would not say that's fine at all. They would condemn that and say, how can you issue this statement like this, just condemning an entire group? And it's like, wait, that's exactly what your God does with the Jews.
Imagine a pastor today in a church saying on TV, do not take Muslims as friends.
And you're referring to Surah 5, verse 51, where Allah says not to take Jews and Christians as friends.
Yes.
That would be international news for the next 2 weeks.
Imagine if I say today in this show, do not take the Sunnah or the Shiite as a friend or as friends. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow, Brother Rachid is preaching hatred.
Mm-hmm. Hate speech. Mm-hmm.
Hate speech. And I will be blocked on Facebook, on Twitter, on everything.
But it's fine if it's in the Quran.
Yeah, you can read it. You can worship God through this, to worship Allah, and He will be pleased with you. Mm-hmm. And you can't say a thing against it.
Mm-hmm. So early on, Jews and Christians are regarded as like authoritative in matters of religion, to such an extent that Allah tells Muhammad he can confirm his revelations by going to Jews and Christians. And over and over again in the Quran, Surah 2, for instance, over and over again, Allah tells Muhammad to say to the Jews, hey, I'm confirming what you have, so you confirm what I have. So he's appealing to the Jew. He's almost begging the Jews to confirm him as a prophet.
Yes.
And what happens is they reject him. And so then the messages
turned against them.
Yeah, that's when the messages change and things suddenly start getting much harsher towards Jews.
And through history, Jews and Christians were persecuted in the Muslim world because of these verses. Muhammad said, I will kick them out of the Arabic Peninsula. I will leave only one religion.
That's Sahih Muslim, one of their best sources. He will expel the Jews and Christians from the Arabian Peninsula and not leave any but Muslims, even though Jews and Christians were there before him.
Yeah, and Omar executed that promise. He did it when he became caliph. Since then, Christians and Jews are hated, but more Jews are hated than Christians. I have to mention that. Much more hatred towards Jews than Christians. In Muslim countries, they were kicked out. You will not find now Jews in Egypt. You will find few hundreds in Morocco, and not in Tunisia, not in Algeria, not in Iraq, not in all these places. Why? Some people will say, well, just because Israel was made, Israel just was 1948. Let's read through history. In Morocco, they used to put a pig and a monkey on their shoulders. They were not allowed to walk with shoes. They were segregated in their own places because they are not allowed to be among Muslims. They are not allowed to ride a horse And if they see a Muslim, they have to give them the way. They should not walk while a Muslim is walking. And we ignore, and this is in Muslim sources, not me creating them. Problem, people do not read.
Yeah, and it's easy to take Quran verses and to say, look, this is a favorable view of Jews here. It's very similar to the situation with Christians, where Muhammad at one time has a favorable view of them, thinks of them as allies, and then as they reject him, becomes progressively more hostile until we eventually get to the final marching orders, which is Surah 9, of course,
Yes.
fight those who do not believe in Allah, specifically refers to Jews and Christians. Very interesting that the reason given for violently subjugating Jews, because Muslims would have said, wait, what are you talking about? I thought the people of the book were good and they're on our side. And the very next verse has to come up with the justification. It says, Jews call Ezra the son of Allah.
Oh, that's,
You ever heard a Jew call Ezra the son of Allah?
I never saw it. I'll
Never
tell
heard
you a
one.
story about it. The Jews say Ezra is the son of Allah, and the Christians say the Messiah is the son of Allah. Yeah, he's accusing them of something never said. They never said. Even Ezra is a translation of Uzair. So it doesn't say really in the Arabic Ezra. So who's this Uzair? They just assumed he was Ezra. Why they will call just Ezra, not the other ones? That's one thing. Second, when I went to Israel, I found a grave named Ezra. And guess who is making that place holy? Not the Jews, Muslims. And when I took pictures of it, I posted it, the people in Iraq, they got mad. They said, no, Ezra is here. So they have another tomb that is holy in Iraq and belongs to Ezra. And Syrians got mad. They say, no, he's here. So they have 3 or 4 tombs for Ezra. Guess what? It's just holy among Muslims, not Jews.
And so, and by the way, there are Muslims who try to explain this, saying maybe there was some group at his time who taught this. Does not work because, it doesn't work. I mean, one, show us the group, because we have no record of any such group. But even if you want to say in the Hadith, according to Muhammad, at the judgment, that's going to be the main accusation against Jews. Why did you worship Ezra? Why? And we have no record in all of history of a Jew treating Ezra that way.
And the Quran doesn't say some Jews.
Yeah, the Jews. So this is standard
the mainstream
standard Jewish practice.
Yeah, the mainstream, they call him the son of Allah. Another thing I want to conclude with this, when you mentioned in the 929, just wipe out or like give them choices. Most of Muhammad's wars, they were against Jews. And the most killing happened not against the polytheists who persecuted him. It was against Jews. In one day, more than 600 people were slaughtered. And some Muslims, they say, oh, one of his wives is a Jew. What are you talking about? And I say, yeah, she was a slave. He killed her dad and her brother and her tribe, and he made sex with her while she's still captive coming back from that raid. Do you think that's marriage? Yeah,
he really loved Jews based on that. I don't know what to even say here. You've got a book that is calling for the violent subjugation of an entire group. Again, it's even worse when you get to the Hadith, and the judgment won't come. You won't get your rewards in heaven until you go out and fight the Jews to where they're hiding from you, and even the rocks and trees are telling you where to find them so you can kill them. And when you say, well, why all of this hatred and hostility towards this group? It's because they worship Ezra, and it's completely false. And so here you have a religion calling for the violent subjugation and the eventual extermination of an entire group based on a lie. I think we need to take a closer look at this religion.